afternoon, everyone. Good morning.
Peace.
Good
Morning.
afternoon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So welcome to the Stand Up Movement Center. Woo! We are officially 7 days away. Can
Yeah.
you believe it?
Yes, I can.
You can believe it?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to have this roundtable discussion. We just heard from Melanie Campbell and Roland Martin,
Yeah.
and we're just going to get right into it. So the man of the hour is Common. Woo!
Thanks.
So Common, tell us why you're here and why we should vote.
Well, I'm here because I care about my people. I care about our people. And I know the power of the vote is really the way that we want to change these situations. I mean, you know, I'm here with these sisters, and I've been seeing Tamika and Until Freedom doing a lot of work for Breonna Taylor. Well, how do we change the situation with what happened in Kentucky? It's voting. How do we change the situation for black men and women being sentenced to long prison sentences for marijuana and different things that we know is not justified? It's voting. How do we get grants and jobs and more opportunities for jobs and black business developers getting those grants is by voting, by getting elected officials that really are us, that represent us into office and they consider us and make movements that are towards us. So I'm for that, and I feel like the only way I can say I'm for the people is if I'm also encouraging the people to vote, and I'm voting myself.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I got a cue to kick it over to Melanie Campbell.
So we're not having
President French.
Okay.
But I don't think
And we're also joined by Tamika Mallory. Woo! Until Freedom. And so you have been on the road. I think the last time I saw you, you were coming out of a jail. But you have been on the road. You have been in the movement. Tell us what you're seeing and hearing out there.
So we have actually been on the road since when we were in New York specifically locked up because of and when I say locked up, I don't mean in the jail. I mean locked in with the pandemic. You know, New York really was hit hard. But we made a decision when we heard about Breonna Taylor. Attorney Benjamin Crump called us and said that he needed some help bringing attention to Breonna and her family and to keep her name alive because she had been killed in March. And at that point, no one was really talking about her situation and the tragedy that occurred. And so we decided to go to Kentucky. And since then, since May, we've been living in Kentucky, taking up temporary residency. We've been supporting her family, going back and forth, holding rallies, which Common has attended. And we decided that, as we were leaving Kentucky to go back home, we have really set a foundation there. We have Until Freedom folks who are in town and continuing to work on the Breonna Taylor case. It was time for us to go home. And then we said, well, we're going to take one more trip around the country with Woke Vote, our partner, DeWanna Thompson and her team, just to get some folks who are considered to be low propensity voters out. We know that all our people should have a voice and should be at the table. And the message that we've been sharing is that protest without going to the polls is not finishing the job. You're leaving a piece of the work undone. That our protest on the ground, we are protesters. We do that with our eyes closed. But at the same time, we have to be as strategic and as focused at going to the polls and ensuring that the policy changes that we want to see, as Common was speaking about, are directly connected to the work that has been put in on the ground. When I think about Breonna Taylor's situation and what she's going through right now, and actually Breonna's mom, Tamika Palmer, has been traveling with us this week, helping to knock on doors in communities across the country. And as we are, thinking about where we go from here, knowing that the Attorney General had the opportunity to present charges on behalf of Breonna to a grand jury, in which I saw today that the two grand jurors, even though anonymously, did an interview with Gayle King where they said that they could tell that that there was negligence and that there was criminal activity basically that took place, but yet there were no charges presented on behalf of Breonna Taylor. Instead, the Attorney General, he presented charges that protected the walls and people in other apartments, and not the young woman who was murdered in her home, who was completely innocent. And I think for us, what we have found and what has helped us to move people who have not necessarily felt like they want to vote in this election, and they have every right to feel that trauma and just the pain of constantly going through a process where they do not feel they're being represented and respected. But what we have said to them is that the very Attorney General, who has, in my judgment, also acted criminally by, not protecting Breonna Taylor. He's an elected official.
Right.
So elections have consequences.
That's right.
And a lot of those same people who are out there protesting in Kentucky every day didn't even know who he was. They did not vote for him. They didn't know that the Attorney General was such an important position that they have to show up in these local elections. So, as I close, the one thing I've been saying is that if you protest the presidential piece by not showing up at the polls, what you do is really cut your own nose off to spite your face, right? Because what about all the other down ballot elections that affect your community? So when I voted before I left New York, I voted for 3 judges. I voted for an assembly person and a state senator. Those individuals control how I live every day in my local community, and so we don't have the right to stay home. We must be involved in the process, and that's the message that we've been carrying around the country.
Great, amen. Thank you so much. We're going to kick it back over to Melanie Campbell right quick from Black Women's Roundtable and National Coalition of Civic Participants.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to be very brief because I had done all of my shouting out and didn't realize I was on mute. So Deborah, thank you so very much, you and Ariel and the whole Georgia Stand Up team for all the work that you do. It was good to see my alma mater and all of my sheroes and heroes that are there with you all. We know we have 7 days out, and we can't let off the gas. We know justice is on the ballot. I want to thank my sister Tamika and Latasha and Joanna and of course our special guest Common I saw you were in my home state of Florida with my brother Desmond Meade and our Florida coalition down there. But we got to push it, y'all. This thing is for keeps. We know folks are doing everything they can to stop us. I just see Georgia. You're gonna take it to the finish line. Working, doing all the work that you're doing, and we just got to get it done. It's on our watch, as Susan Taylor would always tell us. It's on us. What are we going to allow to happen on our watch? And I know we're not gonna have it. It's too much at stake. Our children's future is at stake, and we're not just trying to survive. We want to also thrive in our communities. We built this country. We know the injustices that are continues to take place. Seeing what's going on up there in Philadelphia, and what Tamika and them are continuing to do in Kentucky and so many other places. And I know I'm preaching to the choir. All those folks who are tuning in to this very powerful conversation about owning our power, owning that vote. Make sure that you are ready. Make sure that you wear a mask. Make sure that you take a folding chair. Do whatever you have to do to stand strong and unapologetic that we're going to do what we need to do. And the vote is just November 3rd is just the beginning of bringing into straight structural racism and all the other things that we know that are going wrong in our community. I want to thank my brother Roland Martin for always partnering and standing in the gap. And let's just get this thing done. And thank you so very much for all you're doing, and love everybody. I got my Power to Sister Vote shirt on because we know what time it is. Black women, we're going to do what we need to do. And brothers, we need you to just do your thing too. And together we can win. Thank you.
Voting precincts. Our aim is to ensure the safety of
20 seconds. Hurry up.
No
Helen.
one-
Thank you
voters
so
be
much,
intimidated?
Sister Melanie. I'm going to turn it over to Dewana Thompson. And you have been on the road.
Yes.
Woke vote.
Yes.
What you doing? What are they talking about in the field?
Well, what they're talking about is how critical this election is to their everyday lives and how we're going to change material conditions. I think that, the thought process is that our communities are not engaged, but we've been under-engaged, and our communities have been systematically under-resourced when it comes to our political power. So that is, in fact, voter suppression. When you have communities that, have radio ads running from January until now, when you have communities that had still people, even with COVID, knocking on doors, but you didn't see that show up, particularly in Black communities the same way. We knew, partnering with Until Freedom and others, that we had to fill the gap. So we have still been in our communities. We've been in the places where, quote unquote, low propensity voters, which are really lower voters who have not been engaged appropriately. We've been in those places where nobody wants to knock those doors. Yesterday, we were in a housing project in Birmingham, Alabama, one of the toughest housing projects in the city. And when we came to the doors, people came out excited to see us, wanting to know why we were there. We had Breonna Taylor's mother with us, and she was able to say, listen, this is why it's critical to connect the dots, to just say vote anymore, particularly for people who have been hit by COVID, who are still suffering from losing their jobs because of COVID, who are still trying to figure out, I've got 3 kids in an education system where I have to have 3 computers and we don't have one in order to, and so we're talking about people who are dealing with issues, but when we're coming to that door, we're connecting those issues to the power of the vote, and they're excited to see it. We also had a rally yesterday, an early vote rally in the city of Birmingham. We were able to turn out and vote 1,200 individuals in one day at that rally. So we're super excited. Our people they understand what this means for our communities. They know that righteous leadership is necessary, and they know that they have a part in that. But they also know this, that no matter who gets in office on November 3rd, all we got is ourselves, and we have got to organize our power. And this is how we bring some people into the power. The elections are how we bring people into the power, but what we do after that, what we do once we organize our power, is we actually take that after November 3rd, and we say, we elected you, or you vote for us. Here's what we need to happen. And we're explaining that concept at every single door, at every single stop. We're going to continue to do that through November 3rd and beyond.
Yeah. So what's your website? Woke Vote.
Yes, wokevote.us. So you can go right now and you can learn everything about your polling location, how many days left you have for absentee voting, early voting information. All these polling locations that have changed. It's critical that we know what all the rules moves are for right now. So you can go to wokevote.us and get all of that information.
All right. Okay. So we're going to switch it on over to President French, George
Yes.
T. French. Clark College at Clark Atlanta University is my alma mater, as well as Melanie Campbell.
Yes.
And so we're
yes.
concerned about HBCUs and what's happening, and particularly because of COVID-19, student loans, and just the whole impact on Black folks going to college. So how is Clark Atlanta University going to pivot in this moment?
So, excellent question, and thank you to the organizers of this event. Certainly, wokevote.us. We will be there. Our 4,000 students of Clark Atlanta University, we will be there. We have been there.
counting
and
on
will
you.
continue to do so. Trust me. So, actually, this is an historic moment for the HBCU community, as it is for the entire African American community. You have the confluence here of a COVID crisis with social unrest. We have to be in the streets peacefully protesting, but we have to figure out how to do it as socially distanced.
Right.
We have to figure out at Clark Atlanta University, how do we migrate, and how did we migrate with 4,000 students to an entirely online platform? How do we allow students from around the country to remain in their cities so that they could remain safe? We did it. We purchased 4,000 laptops. Now, I've never been to the laptop store before and said, I'll take 4,000 computers. I did this time. We gave everyone a laptop so that they could study and continue to learn in their various cities. But what's interesting is while we kept them safe, speaking with the political campaigns, including Biden and Harris, my concern is every year during the election, every 4 years, we would actually march to the polls. So we had almost 100% voter participation amongst our students.
Right.
But the question is now, the AU Center, Spelman, Morehouse School of Medicine, Clark Atlanta, we have 10,000 students that are dispersed across the nation.
Right.
So what we're saying to them is you have to be as excited in your hometown in Louisville, Kentucky, or Wisconsin, or Detroit, as you would be on that campus. As a matter of fact, you don't have responsibility only for your roommate. Now you have responsibility to make sure to drive your mother, your father, your grandparents
That's
to the
right.
polls.
Yes.
Let's get 6 or 7 people out of that house to vote on election day. So how do we pivot? At Clark Atlanta University, we pivot by continuing education. We pivot by reminding this nation that W.E.B. Du Bois was the faculty member at Clark Atlanta University,
Yes,
Tell the
Atlanta
history, sir.
University, the top scholar in the world who studied socioeconomics and demographics of the African American community in Philadelphia as well as in Atlanta. He helped to shape national policy based on the data that came out of Clark Atlanta University. So now we continue to be data-driven. We continue to be researchers. We continue to provide the statistics that make the case for changing policy. We continue to train students to go to law school and medical school at disproportionate numbers. And we have to, because we need more Black lawyers out there.
Yes.
Now more than ever.
Yeah.
After the ceremony last night at the White House, we realize now
We're
that
nonpartisan here.
we are nonpartisan, absolutely. We realize, however, that the Supreme Court Justice nomination was just as important, if not more important, than the election of November 3rd.
That's right.
Because
That's
for
right.
a whole generation now, the court can influence everything from voter suppression to immigration to every law in the nation. So what does that mean? That means we have to have African Americans trained. We have to be what we've always been, the creme de la creme, the very best of the best, the most resilient of everyone. But that means we have to have lawyers that make sure that they win their cases on appeals so that we don't have to worry about writs of certiorari and going to the Supreme Court. We can't go there right now. We want to stay in our local courts, exactly, and get it done in that way. So that's how Clark Atlanta University will pivot. We will take the lead role, as we always have, in this nation and in our city.
Well, all right.
That's
Well
right.
said. And I'm a product of Clark Atlanta University, so you're right. Social justice and all of that is up to us. So we have Jasmine Bell. And Jasmine, so how do you feel as a student at Clark Atlanta University about what's happening in this moment and the activism that's happening with students? How does that relate to what you're doing right now?
Well, at first, I just want to thank Clark Atlanta University and Georgia Stand Up for putting me in this opportunity, and this is where it starts. We know that 47 out of 535 Congress members are women of color, and that starts from K through 12 and then up through our historically black universities and colleges and organizations. And representation matters. I'm sorry, excuse me. Representation matters, and being at HBCU, being at this table is where it starts for our students. Being in these rooms is where it starts for our students. So as a student, you know, the internet activism that I'm seeing grow, it's pivotal in the moment that our generation is using different tactics to tackle these issues that we're up against today. But also, I just want to encourage all of my students and peers to be data-driven, as Dr. French said. Be data-driven. Be on facts. Everything is not, you know, one way or another. The policies matter. And when people are not looking at the policies and they're looking at the person, they're missing what is going to create the world that we live in. So, yeah.
Wow. What did you say? She's a student?
All right.
Where are you a student?
Clark Atlanta, the one and only Clark Atlanta University.
Okay, so and then I'm going to pivot over to Helen Butler, who is the Executive Director of the Georgia Coalition of the People's Agenda, but also our Black Women's Roundtable convener for Georgia.
Yeah.
And she has all the information. So what's going on in Georgia?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Deborah, and glad to be here with everyone. I tell you, it's a record number of people that are voting.
That's right.
Over 2 million people have already voted early. It means numbers matter. So we can do this thing, we can make the difference, and whatever we want to do, we can do that. I want to give an analysis of something that happened in the last election cycle to now. If you take a look at why I say numbers matter, Stacey Abrams in the 2018 election cycle lost by 54,000 votes, but there were 900,000 black people alone who were registered to vote in Georgia, but didn't make that extra effort to vote. So the outcomes of any election can matter. So if someone out there is saying my vote doesn't matter, that tells you it matters. The mayor of Atlanta won by 700 votes. Numbers matter. We can make the difference. The People's Agenda, of course, you know, was convened by Dr. Joseph Lowery and so many civil rights leaders. And they were instrumental in getting us the 1965 Voting Rights Act that protects that right to vote. So we're across the state of Georgia. We have 7 offices. Metro Atlanta, Athens, Georgia, Albany, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, LaGrange, Georgia. We're there making sure that people can exercise that right to vote and protect it. And for this election cycle, my little math said it all, election protection.
That's right.
That's what it's all about.
That's
We're
right.
covering 90 counties out of 159 counties in the state of Georgia with election protection monitors that will be at polling locations to assist voters if they encounter problems. We have a toll-free 866 Our Vote number. So if you go and vote and you encounter a problem, don't leave the polling location.
right.
Make sure you exercise your right to vote by calling 866 Our Vote. We want you to exercise your right to vote without any problems. You can't vote absentee now. I mean, you can technically, but it's too late for that. If you've got your ballots, go ahead and turn them in the drop boxes. You have this last couple of 4 days for early voting. Ends Friday. So go vote early. There are lots of places for you to vote early. So if you don't know it, call us at 866 Our Vote. We'll tell you any information you need to know. But there is no excuse for voting. as Dr. Lowry said, voting is a sacred right. But for us, it's a moral obligation that we have to exercise that right to vote. So many people have given so much for us to be able to exercise that right to vote. And this is the time. Young people, the movement, Dr. King said, give us the ballot. That, of course, movement, protest, and the ballot go hand in hand. So it is now time to protest at the ballot.
That's right.
Ooh, protest at the polls. All right, and so we're going to kick it over to Ariel Singleton with Black Youth Vote and Georgia Stand Up.
Yes, thank you so much, everybody. Just like Ms. Helen said, you know, our time is now when it comes to voting, especially when we're coming to Black youth. You know, this year is pivotal, very, very pivotal. It marks 100, as a Black woman, it marks 100 years that women have had the opportunity to vote. But then it's 55 years for the Voting Rights Act. And those things right now, we're seeing those things still unfold here in 2020. So like many people will say, if our vote wasn't important, they wouldn't try to stop us. And as we know, in Georgia, we deal a lot with voter suppression. We deal a lot with things. So we have a vote plan that you have to do. You still have the rest of the day to include today in your vote plan. You have today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, and including on Tuesday. Don't wait till the last minute and don't let your opportunity miss you. You have the opportunity to make history every day you wake up, and every day is election day. So my charge to anybody that's out there, especially to our Black youth, especially to our women that are sitting at home, our Black men that are sitting at home, our time is now. The vote is ours. You don't see these Black Voters Matter signs, stand up and vote, and people sitting here, like they said, protesting at the ballots. Our protest is our voice, and our voice is what we put on paper or on our polling machine that goes in. So make sure you follow your ballot. Make sure you're having your plan and convincing and talking to your friends and your peers and your family members to do the same. Because right now, we are the numbers. We are the future, and it's about to have a future, and that future is ours.
That's right.
All right. And so, Common, as you travel around the country, you have heard a lot and seen a lot. Are there any reflections you'd like to share with us?
Well, I mean, yeah, I just, I've gotten to talk to dudes on the block, some brothers on the block that just felt like, man, they just felt like I could feel they hurt. They ain't feel included as part of the American story, the politics. Even if they felt like whether it was Obama, whomever, they didn't feel like it really mattered. Their situation didn't change. And I think, I did my best to listen to them and try to understand them, and because I was in that position, of feeling like, man, this American thing ain't me. But I changed. I evolved and understood that, it's great to see Tamika here, because I used to think, man, if I'm doing community work, I ain't got nothing to do with politics. But then I realized that politics is affecting me no matter what, and it's affecting my community. And what I tried to do was connect with those brothers and say, hey, man, they was like, man, how we gonna stop these murders on the block? I was sitting there with two candidates that were running for mayor, one running for House of Representatives. I said, these the people that you hold accountable. You vote, listen to what they talking about. If they are gonna be about stopping the violence by creating jobs and doing things that's aligned with your interests, man, you can change that with your vote too. I just really, I've been also meeting people that's been inspiring me, because I'm seeing people out voting from all, ages, like you say, from our elders to our young people, and hearing young people. So it's been inspiring. I've been really, more than anything, wanting to celebrate our vote and remind us of how empowering it is and the joy of it. And, and that's what I've been on. But I'm going to kick this rhyme real quick, too.
All right, let's do it.
I said, they say racism, man, it don't stop. They talk sexism, yeah, it don't stop. Americanism, yeah, it don't stop. You gotta get that wisdom and get your Glock before they hit your block with the National Guard. Yeah, you protected by a compassionate God. We hunting for jobs, being hunted by squads. It's a small world, we want it at large. America's most neglected and arrested. That's why your vaccine, I gotta second guess it. We don't know what you shooting in black kings and black queens. Plus your health record ain't really that clean. We don't forget like Nat King, what happened in Tuskegee. We getting over high blood pressure and diabetes. Like trees we fall in the wilderness of America. Is it you don't hear us or don't care for us? Once upon a time there was a black man. They loved him when he shot ball, they loved him when he ran. They loved him when he rapped and loved him when he danced. But really didn't love when he was out with his fam. Couldn't love him in the hood or selling CDs. And didn't love her when she was in the house sleep. I'm wondering if it's love, if it's really love at all. Because in that type of love, we fall.
Amen.
Thank you.
I just got to share my art, man. I'm an MC.
Thank you for sharing your heart.
Amazing.
And so,
Yes, that's what I'm,
yes,
it's
thank you.
on the- yeah.
As we close out this panel, I want to give everyone just one more second just to say, you know, what is the message for the folks? We got 4 more days here in Georgia. You have people all over the country that are lining up. They're going to stand in lines. We're doing voter care kits. We have NACA. They're doing rides to the polls. We're going to go over to the press conference in a few minutes. But just as we close out this panel for the roundtable, just want to ask, go from this way. Just give us one little word of wisdom. We'll start with Ariel.
My word of wisdom is that own your vote, own your power, own your voice, own your mind. Do not let anybody deter you from doing what you know is right. So that's my wisdom.
All right, Dr.
Thank you.
French.
Very simple. Let's get out and vote. Here's the caveat. If you missed the deadline to register and you aren't registered to vote, you still may have an automobile. Get 6 people in your family, pick them up, and drive them to the polls.
That's
Right.
right.
Yes.
All
I just like to say, Maya Angelou said, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. Let's come as one to the polls and let's stand as thousands together.
Yes.
You know, I would say that first of all, don't believe the hype. People are online, as you said. They're out there. Folks are voting. Black men are voting. The tricks that are being used to try to turn black men and women against one another in this moment.
Yes.
Don't believe it. Don't focus on it. Do what has to be done. And I think the word, not so much wisdom, but encouragement would be that after the election is when we have to do the real
That's
work.
right.
That no matter who is elected, we have a responsibility to engage,
That's
as we
right.
have been throughout this administration, no matter who takes over the White House. And I think that if we can commit to that, and when I say that, I mean to those of us who are black people who are looked upon as being the bougie blacks, right? Like we got it together. We live in good zip codes. We've moved out of the community, and yet we're telling our people to vote, vote, vote. And they don't see or feel how it will actually benefit them. But I think if we commit to them that we will stay in these streets and stay on the ground, no matter who's elected, that will make them feel a little bit more comfortable about showing up at the
That's
polls.
right.
All right. Thank
Man, I just say, man, God worked through us in different ways, and I think the Creator is working through us right now to say, show up at that poll, show that you care about your community, show that you care about that you're gonna do my work in different places. People say, all the church and politics ain't supposed to mix, but this is about God. It ain't just really just about the church. I'm saying, like, I feel as a people, our higher vibration is to operate on God levels, and I think as men and women, we have that in us to do it. As young men and women, we have that to do. We have that in us to do it, and I believe that's what we should be doing. And let's go do it, man. Like, let's go out and act. This is an act of love when we going out to vote. It's an act of joy. So I just want to encourage everybody. And if you, man, wokevote.com is important because sometimes you feel like intimidated because you don't know who to vote and you don't know the information. But I think that's so important what y'all doing. When you broke that down, I looked at Mike Ladd and was like, we need to be guiding people to that because, you know, even for me, when I go vote, I'm like, I try to get as educated as I can on everybody, but I don't know every judge. I don't. And so, I mean, we got to have resources like what you all are doing. So I'm just encouraging people, even if it's your first time voting, you doubt it, man, just take that time and go do it. You're going to feel the power that you have in it. So.
Ooh, wow, power.
I just want to say that voting is our right, not our privilege. And so with that, we need to insulate ourselves with each other and keep building up our leaders, the young ones, the old ones, because as stated earlier, this is about continuous progression, not about November 3rd.
That's right.
That's right.
Continuous progression.
And Helen, as we prepare voter care kits, as we're taking people to the to the polls, I know you're all over Georgia. What is the thing that you need us to know?
I need you to know your rights. Know what your rights are when you go vote. Know the system. Take a sample ballot with you. Know who you're voting for. We have Know Your Candidates cards, so you can get to see what they look like. We're nonpartisan, but we can educate you.
That's right.
Know your rights. You have the right to receive assistance, right?
That's right.
If you have language deficiencies or don't speak English well, we have those people available to help you. Know your rights. But you've got to exercise that right because, as Ariel said, it's power. You give up your power when you don't vote.
That's right.
Please, V-O-T-E. Simple.
And Common, as I see your shirt, I like that shirt, by the way. On one arm it says stand up, and on the other arm it says mask up. So I just want to say thank you. We are going to transition out of this conversation into what we're doing next door, which is the rally. So on behalf of Georgia Stand Up and the Black Women's Roundtable, thank you so much, Melanie Campbell and Roland Martin.
Yes.
We
Thank you all.
appreciate you.
you.
We support you. God bless. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, we're going to do a group picture right quick, and then everyone else start going over to the rally.
Okay.
To me.
All right, so the bus is outside. Michael, he agreed.